Peace. This is Brother Zarakia coming back from Universal Breath of Life. This piece right here is the King Dom effect. Peace to the God. Shout out to my man King Dom. He gave me a call the other day and was really encouraging me to push forward with what I'm doing now and the way that I'm doing it. And not to really worry about building an entire movement at this time, but just getting started with what you have, because sometimes we overthink things and we're waiting for the right people, the right circumstances, the right condition, and sometimes that don't come. And if we're waiting for the perfect opportunity, the perfect place, the perfect people, the perfect materials, you know, we never get up and running. And it made me ponder several things. One, it made me think about Marvin Gaye's song, Got to Give It Up, where so long, for many years, we grooved to that song, you know, without really understanding what it was that he was saying. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I didn't get it until recent years, where he was saying, I used to go to a party and stand around because I was too nervous to really get down, but my body set me free. I got out on the dance floor for somebody to dance with me. Then he said, you know, as long as you're grooving, there's always a chance that somebody's watching is gonna make you dance. So what he's saying is that just get it going. You know, I remember sharing that my understanding of that song with student minister Victor Muhammad here in Pittsburgh one time, and when I espoused, you know, what it was that I extracted from it, he said, "Oh yeah, you know, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that if your car breaks down on the side of the road, don't just sit there. You know, pop the hood up, and even if you're not a mechanic and you don't know what you're doing, act like you know what you're doing. See, because if you're just sitting in the car, somebody driving by is going to assume that AAA is on the way, or your father, you know, help is coming, so you're all set because you're just chilling. But if you get busy in the activity of doing, then you're going to attract the attention of somebody. Maybe a master mechanic is coming by and he's going to stop and say, oh, let me lend my services. How can I help? You know, what's the problem? And before you know it, you're up and on your way, but that's because you at least gave the appearance of activity. Now, I think a good example of that in my own life was, you know, Mel Robbins has a book called The 5-Second Rule, where she's saying that the universe is always giving you ideas, but you have to respect the universe and the ideas. And when they say universe, talking about the God of creation, you know, but when you receive those kind of ideas, you have to move on it in a way that shows appreciation for you being the chosen vessel to receive that idea. Even if at that time you're incapable of moving on it, show some respect. Put it in motion to the best of your ability. One day I was working at the store we had in Boston, and it was the middle of the night. I'm working the night shift, and I'm watching television, and there was a commercial for a DVD from old Western movie called Have Gun Will Travel. And it gave me an idea to put together a compilation album called, it would eventually be called Connections, but I immediately, when the idea came to me, just based on that title, the idea came to me, I immediately drew out a flyer by hand saying that, because I didn't have enough money myself to endeavor to do a complete project. So the idea was, let me find about 10 other rap artists in Boston that will be a part of a project. And if all of us pay $150, $200 a piece, we'll have enough to produce the album. So that was the idea. But I immediately, because in Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule, she said, when you get the idea, do something within 5 seconds of receiving the idea, even if it means just jotting it down or picking up the phone, talking to your confidant, or make some kind of motion showing the universe that you respected the thought of you being the chosen vessel for said idea, right? So I came up with the idea. I immediately drew out a flyer. When I got off my shift, waited till the copy shop in Grove Hall had opened up, went up and got 25 copies of this hand-drawn flyer. Passed it out to some MCs in Boston that I knew. Put one in the Carousel Lounge because I knew brothers hang out there. Shout out to my cousin Joe. Peace. But we said that on Saturday, the following Saturday, we was gonna hold auditions because my little crew, we had a barbershop / beauty salon. So one Saturday we were gonna hold the auditions inside of the salon, and a lot of people showed up. A whole lot of people showed up. MCs auditioning for this. I'm not a producer like that, although I had an ASR 10 keyboard, sampling keyboard and whatnot, and so I started playing around with some beats, but I knew that I wasn't producer material. But because I had began the activity, I attracted my man James L, another producer named D Funk, James L, and Carlos was working at High Voltage, where we used to get our mixtapes and things from downtown Boston. And so James introduced me to Carlos. Carlos had a little production company called Univa. Univa's the one that's been putting all of the stuff on the platforms like Pandora and whatnot. So, but that's cool. So we held this audition. So now I got producers, since I'm not a producer. And although I had intended to be a rapper on the album, there was some pretty nice MCs that came to the table. My man Divine Mathematics, LC the Speaker, Uno the Prophet, Sniper, Ran, a Little Big Man. You had some MCs on there that was just way better than myself, being humble. Nah, they really are. I love the culture. I love hip hop. I love performing, but I knew that it was a better thing for me to take a seat to these MCs and go ahead and do the behind the scene works of making the album happen. So now because of that 5-second rule and the activity immediately happening on my part to show respect to the universe for blessing me with the idea, we attracted the MCs, we attracted the producers, and then a sister in Boston named Cheelo came into the store a few days later after the audition, and she said that she had a business that she was developing, and invited me and my brother to invest in the business. And I said, well, what's the business? Well, I'm not telling you that because you might take the idea and run with it. I said, well, I'll tell you what I'm working on, what we're working on. We just had an audition a couple days ago at the salon, and I showed her the flyer. We got all of these MCs from Boston, and we're gonna do a compilation album, right? And she ended up liking the idea, loving the idea, to the extent that she no longer asked us to invest in whatever the mysterious business she was creating. She went home and that evening came back to the store with $3,000 and put it in my hand, said, make it happen. And so now we have the MCs, we have the producers, we have the money. And then my cousin / brother Daryl came on board. He threw some chips in the game too and showed support. My man Jerome, who became kind of like a right hand in terms of the business. You know, we stayed up sometimes at Kinko's all night working on flyers and working on my brother Haziel did the design of the covers and stuff, so he brought his skills to the table as well as his singing ability, because we had, Carlos had some samples on there, and I didn't know if this album was really gonna blow up to the extent that it was gonna get the attention of the big leagues. And he had some Barry Manilow samples and stuff. I said, we don't need to do the samples. Let my man hear it, and he can sing just like that. So he did singing, I think, on 3 of the songs on the album, 2 or 3 of the songs. Anyway, but that was just all of that to say, because eventually we didn't call it Have Gun Will Travel. Shout out to my man Divine Mathematics. He pulled me to the side and said, yo, God, I love what you're doing. I love the idea of what you're intending to do. But consider the impact that we're intending to have. I know that you're God by nature, and you're seeking to do things on a godly level. Do we want to advocate violence? Even the thought of have gun will travel. And he was right. There was no challenge to that on my part. And so we pondered a different name. And throughout the whole time we was meeting on Sundays at the salon, putting everything in order, me, the producers, the MCs and whatnot. And I was always talking about how this is all about connections, because through my activity of trying to make all of this happen, I met Cindy Diggs, peace to Mama Hip Hop. I met Ren, I met all of the Cliff, who was, the master of street team marketing and promotions and this and that. And, sound engineers, studio owners, and, so I'm getting all of moving this project along by being connected. And a brother who was supposed to be on the album named Cheelo, giving you your flowers, God. He suggested when I said we gotta come up with another name, he did suggest that you're always talking about connections, how this is, based on connections and whatnot. Why don't we call it that? So even though on the intro of the album, we was kind of mad at each other, which is why he wasn't on the album. And I took a jab saying, you got these cats saying they made the name for me. The truth is he did, maybe I said that because I was already throwing the word connections out like that, saying it's all about connections and whatnot. But Cheelo was like, since you're always saying it, why don't we call the album that? So enough respect to Cheelo. Let's catch up, God, and do something together to make up for the time lost, man. Maybe we'll do a project, reconnected, So anyway, but I said all of that just to say how, the words of my man King Dom really resonated with me in terms of just blossoming from where you're planted. When you get an idea, never think that you have to have the perfect climate, the perfect situation in order to get it going. The fact that the universe gave you the idea means that you have enough to get started. Maybe you need to consider and reconsider what it means to get started. But do that, and history is so full. I can rattle on examples of people who did not have what we would think the perfect material or perfect situation to bring about the desired success, but they did it anyway. Damon John came up with the idea for a clothing line, FUBU, for us, by us, and left his house, talked his mother into allowing him to not only move in to her house so they could split rent and whatnot, or maybe he wasn't paying her rent at all. But not only did he have to do that, he had to talk her into selling all of her furniture because he needed the living room space in order to bring the business from thought to reality. So he sold his mother's furniture. Now, look, I don't know if the mother is still living or not, but I know that if she is, she wants for absolutely nothing, And so I think about Dick Gregory, whose mother was working 3 jobs and had 3 boys, big boys that she had to raise by herself. He said that they was getting evicted every month. The stuff would be getting put out on the curb, and she would come in the last minute and put money in the landlord's hand and negotiate, a delay on the eviction and whatnot, all the way up until he was old enough to start working at the steel mill or wherever he was working to help her so that she didn't have to work the 3 jobs. But he was extremely fast, and his gym teacher and track coach told him, if you can concentrate on your athletic abilities and allow me to train you and teach you the right way, we could get you a scholarship into college that's ultimately going to help you and your family forever, right? So he had to go back and tell his mama, because when he started working, she did not have to work the 3 jobs. She was able to cut it back to either 1 or 2, which was great for her, a big help. But imagine having to go back to your mother and tell her, you got to go back and get that job because I got to focus on developing these athletic abilities. And she did it, bless her soul, because she bought into the vision of her son, and he went ahead and got very, very good at track, won the scholarship to get him into college, developed his education, became super conscious of the Black struggle and whatnot. And now his name lives on forever. But, he moved on the idea, saw the vision and the finish line, and didn't have all of the necessary stuff at the beginning, but starting was all that it needed to happen. And because he started, we as a people and the world has benefited from the Dick Gregory and the legend that is Dick Gregory, right? So we have all of these stories of people who just had an idea and just got started. So let's do that. The idea that I have for this universal breath of life, like my man King Dom said, it doesn't take 1,000 people, not even 100 people, not even 10 people. Yeah, God, you the universal breath of life. It's your breath, just speak, keep speaking, because this is your groove, and so I'm gonna groove on, so yeah, shouts out to my man King Dom for that, and I pray that all of us can benefit from the wisdom that he shared with me, as it forced me to recall how so many people. There's a brother, Dr. Dennis Kimbrell. He wrote a book called What Makes the Great Great. And the whole book, from start to finish, chronicles stories of brothers and sisters who had nothing except an idea. And their idea was such a determined one that regardless to whom or what circumstances or people that may have been in the way or obstacles or whatever, the idea was strong enough to push through that and bring it from thought to reality. So that's my piece for today. This piece is the King Dom effect. So let's go ahead and get it up and going. I would love for folks to chime in, tap in, and tell me, tell us, what ideas do you have? And, maybe somebody watching this will see your comment in the post or whatever and be able to help you get your idea on the train tracks in terms of moving, So maybe I have an idea to help you, maybe somebody else do, but we can all lift each other up, and we all have the ability to blossom from where we're planted. All it takes is getting started, and you are enough and you have enough to get started. Peace.